Have you ever noticed how your priorities change as you age? Things that once seemed crucial, like having a wide circle of friends, may not seem as important anymore. And here's something that might surprise you. You don't really need friends after 70. It may sound surprising, but when you look deeper, you'll understand how embracing independence and focusing on your well-being can be one of the best decisions you make. In this video, we'll explore 6 reasons why friendships become less essential as you get older. We'll talk about how your mindset, personal freedom, and even your health can improve when you stop stressing about maintaining friendships that no longer serve you. This is not about loneliness. It's about living life on your own terms, free from the pressures and expectations that often come with social connections. Stick with us until the end, because letting go of the pressure to keep up friendships might just change the way you view yourself and your later years for the better. Let's dive in. Number 1. You no longer need to prove yourself to anyone. A key reason you don't need friends after 70 is that you've already gone through the phase where social validation mattered. Reflect on your younger years. How often did friendships revolve around proving your worth, fitting in, or keeping up appearances? Whether it was impressing co-workers, maintaining social circles, or making sure you were included, there was always pressure to be seen and accepted. But now, in this stage of life, none of that is necessary. You've built your legacy, and the opinions of others no longer hold the same weight they once did. At this age, you understand that real fulfillment doesn't come from external approval. It comes from within. There's no need to chase friendships for status, reputation, or social standing. You are who you are, and you don't need anyone's validation to affirm it. Many younger people spend their time worrying about how they are perceived, whether they're liked, admired, or respected. But by the time you reach your later years, you realize that none of that defines your worth. You define your value, and you don't need a group of people around you to reinforce it. Consider someone like Harold in his early 70s, who spent most of his life climbing the corporate ladder. He was always surrounded by people, colleagues, acquaintances, so-called friends, but most of those relationships were based on convenience rather than genuine connection. When he retired, those friendships began to fade. At first, he felt the urge to keep reaching out to maintain those connections. But then, he had an epiphany. Why should he invest in friendships that existed only because of work? Why chase relationships that were never truly meaningful in the first place? Instead of clinging to friendships out of habit, Harold focused more on himself. He spent time on personal hobbies, rediscovered old passions, and most importantly, stopped caring about impressing others. Without the pressure of maintaining friendships, he found himself feeling freer. No more forced small talk, no more social obligations, no more worrying about whether people liked him. He was simply living for himself, and for the first time in a long time, that felt great. That's the key. When you stop seeking validation from others, you realize how much energy you were wasting on friendships that didn't truly add value to your life. You no longer need to prove anything to anyone. You don't have to meet others' expectations. The only person you need to answer to is yourself. Number 2, peace becomes more valuable than socializing. As you grow older, you begin to value peace more than social interactions. In your younger years, being around people seemed essential. The noise, the social events, the conversations felt like an integral part of a full life. But as time goes on, you start to appreciate something deeper, a kind of peace that allows you to be truly at ease, free from unnecessary drama, obligations, and the exhaustion of constant socializing. Even good friendships come with responsibilities. returning calls, accepting invitations, and keeping up with expectations to stay in touch. It's not that friendships are bad, but eventually they can start feeling more like a burden than a joy. The reality is, you don't have to spend your time keeping up with others. You don't have to be available just because someone else expects it. You've reached a point in life where your time is yours, and you get to decide how you want to spend it. Take Margaret, for example. At 74, she had a large group of friends and always had something scheduled: lunches, group calls, holiday events. Her calendar was full, but over time, she started to feel drained by these interactions instead of fulfilled. Conversations became repetitive. Some friends only called to complain, and others focused on gossip rather than meaningful discussions. The joy of companionship turned into a routine she no longer enjoyed. One day, Margaret decided to step back. She stopped feeling guilty about declining invitations she wasn't excited about, and she let go of the pressure to immediately respond to every call or text. Instead, she embraced the quiet. She realized that the time once spent maintaining friendships was now hers to enjoy however she liked. She took longer walks, spent time in nature, and caught up on books she'd been meaning to read for years. Most importantly, she discovered that solitude wasn't lonely, it was peaceful. This is the beauty of this stage of life. You no longer have to fill your days with activity or conversation just to feel connected. You can enjoy your own company without constantly needing validation from others. You get to choose peace over pressure, calm over chaos. If you've ever felt guilty about stepping back from social obligations, remind yourself of this. You're not withdrawing from life. You're embracing a new type of fulfillment, one that comes from within and doesn't rely on anyone else. And this kind of peace only gets better with age. If you're still watching and finding this helpful, please comment number 2 below to let me know you're here. If you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you do so and hit the bell so you don't miss any future videos. Let's keep going. Number 3. Fewer friendships mean fewer disappointments. A tough lesson in life is realizing that not everyone you consider a friend is truly there for you. Over the years, you may have experienced it. People who once seemed close drifting away, friends who became distant when you needed them the most, or relationships that turned out to be one-sided. By the time you reach 70, you start to realize that fewer friendships don't just mean fewer social obligations, they also mean fewer disappointments. Every friendship, no matter how strong, comes with expectations: checking in, being available, and offering support. But what happens when those expectations aren't met? Disappointment. You call someone, but they don't return the call. You put in effort, but they don't reciprocate. You find yourself giving more than you receive. At this stage in life, do you really need that kind of stress? The answer is no. Take William, for example. At 78, he's seen many friendships come and go. Some ended naturally, while others faded because he realized he was always the one putting in the effort. People he'd known for years suddenly became too busy or distracted to maintain a real connection. At first, it hurt. He wondered what he had done wrong or why certain people seemed to forget about him. But then he realized that he hadn't changed. He simply stopped tolerating friendships that weren't mutual. The thing is, when you let go of the need for a large group of friends, you also release the disappointments that come with unmet expectations. You no longer feel frustrated when someone doesn't check in. You don't feel let down when a friendship fades. Instead, you focus on the most important person in your life, yourself. This doesn't mean isolating yourself, it means choosing quality over quantity. Instead of maintaining a long list of acquaintances, you prioritize relationships that truly matter, ones that bring joy and require no effort to sustain, whether that's with family, a lifelong friend, or even just a strong connection with yourself. Those are the relationships that count. So, if friendships have brought more stress than joy, it's okay to step back. It's okay to choose simplicity over complexity and peace over frustration. You don't need a long list of friends to feel fulfilled. Let go of the ones who were never really there in the first place. Number 4, your time becomes more precious. As you get older, you realize that time is your most valuable resource. When you were younger, it might have seemed like there was always more time for friends, more time for social circles, and more time to worry about who's in your life and who isn't. But by the time you reach 70, your perspective shifts. You start to see that every hour, every day, and every moment is precious. And when you understand the true value of time, you naturally become more selective about how you spend it. Friendships, as fulfilling as they can be, also require time and effort. There are calls to make, visits to schedule, and plans to keep. While some relationships are worth maintaining, many are simply habits from the past, relationships kept out of obligation rather than genuine enjoyment. At this stage in life, you have the right to ask yourself, is this how I want to spend my time? Does this friendship add to my happiness? Or does it feel like just another thing on my to-do list? Take Richard, for example. In his early 80s, he had once been active in social circles, attending dinner parties, group outings, and making regular phone calls. But over time, he began to feel differently. The long conversations that once felt enjoyable now felt draining. The social gatherings that once brought excitement began to feel more like burdens. One day, while enduring yet another lunch filled with small talk and complaints, he had an epiphany. He didn't want to spend his time this way anymore. He decided to make a change. Instead of continuing to say yes out of habit, he started saying no when he wasn't in the mood to go out. He began dedicating his time to activities that genuinely brought him joy, reading, walking, learning new things, and enjoying the calmness of his own company. To his surprise, he didn't feel lonely. In fact, he felt more fulfilled than ever because he was using his time in ways that mattered to him, not in ways others expected. The key is this: when you release unnecessary friendships, you gain something far more valuable: time for yourself. Time to do what you love, time to live life on your own terms, and time to focus on your own happiness rather than trying to meet the needs of others. So, the next time you find yourself questioning whether to maintain certain friendships, ask yourself this: is this the best use of my time? At this stage in life, you don't owe your time to anyone. You've earned the right to use it as you choose. Now, moving on to number 5. True companionship comes from within. One of the biggest misconceptions about getting older is that you need a large circle of friends to feel fulfilled. The reality is that the most important companionship you can have is the one you cultivate with yourself. By the time you reach 70, you've spent decades learning and evolving. You know yourself better than anyone else could, and with that self-awareness comes a profound realization: you are enough. For much of our lives, we're conditioned to seek companionship outside of ourselves. We're taught that being social is the key to happiness, and that loneliness is something to be feared. But there's a big difference between being alone and being lonely. Some of the happiest individuals in their later years are those who embrace solitude, not as isolation, but as an opportunity for self-reflection, discovery, and peace. Take Eleanor, for example. At 76, she used to think that surrounding herself with people was necessary for fulfillment. She was always busy making plans, checking in on friends, and filling her days with activity. However, as time went on, she noticed that despite being socially active, she often felt drained instead of uplifted. She realized that many of her friendships were based on routine rather than genuine connection. Worse, she found herself constantly adjusting to fit into conversations and social expectations, all to avoid feeling left out. One day, she decided to stop. She chose to spend time with herself in the same way she would with a dear friend, doing things she loved, listening to her thoughts, and enjoying her own company. She took long walks without feeling the need to call anyone, went to cafes with a book instead of making small talk, and spent quiet evenings reflecting on her life rather than worrying about maintaining friendships out of obligation. To her surprise, she felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than she had in years. That's what many people don't realize. True companionship isn't about how many people you have around you. It's about how comfortable you are with yourself. When you stop depending on others for entertainment, validation, or conversation, you unlock a level of freedom that most people never experience. You no longer need external distractions to fill your time. You become your own source of joy, wisdom, and fulfillment. And the beauty of this? When you truly enjoy your own company, you attract relationships that are effortless. Instead of chasing friendships out of loneliness, you find that the right people naturally come into your life. Those who respect your space, understand your values, and bring peace instead of pressure. So, if you've ever worried that letting go of friendships might leave you feeling alone, remember this: the best company you can have is already with you. When you embrace that, you'll realize that you were never truly alone in the first place. Number 6, letting go opens the door to a more fulfilling life. One of the most powerful things you can do after 70 is let go. Let go of the pressure to maintain friendships that no longer bring joy. Let go of the idea that your social circle defines your worth. Let go of the belief that being alone means being lonely. Because the moment you release these expectations, you open the door to a life that is simpler, freer, and far more fulfilling. Many people hold on to friendships out of habit, even when those relationships no longer add value to their lives. They attend gatherings they don't enjoy, answer calls out of obligation, and keep up appearances just because it's what they've always done. But what if you didn't have to do any of that? What if you gave yourself permission to let go of friendships that felt like work and instead focused on the things that truly bring you happiness? Consider James, for example, a man in his late 70s who once believed that staying socially active was the key to aging well. He made an effort to keep in touch with old friends, even when those friendships had become distant or superficial. He filled his days with social obligations, thinking that staying busy meant staying fulfilled. But one day, he realized something. He wasn't enjoying it. The conversations felt repetitive, the gatherings felt like routines, and deep down, he felt more exhausted than connected. So he made a choice. He stopped forcing friendships that no longer felt meaningful. Instead, he started prioritizing what truly mattered to him. He spent more time outdoors, focused on his health, learned new things, and embraced the freedom that came with not having to meet anyone's expectations. In doing so, he discovered something incredible. He felt lighter, happier, and more at peace than ever before. That's the thing about letting go. It doesn't mean closing yourself off from the world. It means creating space for what truly fulfills you. It means recognizing that your happiness isn't tied to how many people are around you, but rather how aligned you are with the life you want to live. And here's what happens when you embrace this mindset. You stop worrying about who's in your life and start focusing on what brings you joy. You begin to appreciate the little things, waking up to a quiet morning, enjoying a hobby without distraction, feeling at peace with your own thoughts. You realize that fulfillment doesn't come from maintaining friendships out of duty, but from living in a way that feels natural and meaningful to you. So, if you've ever felt like you should be doing more to maintain friendships, ask yourself this: is it truly adding to my happiness, or am I holding on out of habit? Because once you give yourself permission to let go, you'll find that life becomes simpler, lighter, and more fulfilling in ways you never expected. If you're still watching this video and finding these insights valuable, please comment number 6 below to let me know you're here. And if you haven't subscribed yet, I recommend you subscribe and turn on the bell so you don't miss any videos. Your support helps us continue creating valuable content to inform and inspire you. Final thoughts as we wrap up this video. Take a moment to reflect on what we've discussed. The idea that you don't need friends after 70 isn't about isolation, it's about freedom. It's about letting go of unnecessary obligations, choosing peace over pressure, and embracing the life you truly want to live. By now, you've seen how stepping away from friendships that no longer serve you can actually bring more joy, more time, and more fulfillment than you ever expected. What stood out to you the most? Which of these reasons resonated with you the most? Maybe you've already started to let go of friendships that felt more like work than joy. Maybe you've noticed how much you enjoy your own company when you give yourself the chance. Or maybe this video gave you a new perspective on why it's okay to prioritize yourself. We'd love to hear from you. Leave a comment below and share one thing you learned today and how you plan to use it in your life. Your thoughts are important to us, so don't hesitate to share them. Reading your comments gives us great motivation and encouragement. If you enjoyed this video and found it helpful, please like, subscribe, and share. Your support helps us continue creating good content to inform and inspire you. Thanks for watching, and we look forward to seeing you in the next video.